This looks kind of scary, but I'm kind of into it. I have my light. I have no overhead lights on. And honestly, I don't want to get up, guys. So, yeah. Okay. Welcome back to the Quiet Craft Club. I did not advertise this one at all. I do not think anybody will be here. And honestly, that's okay because it was a long day. It was a long day. It was a long week. I'm drinking a beverage that looks so disgusting in this lighting, but it's a whiskey drink. Cheers. Ice ASMR. So, okay, yes, welcome to the Quiet Craft Club. Since I don't think there's going to be anybody here live, I'll just do this as if it was a video for future people watching this. Thanks for watching. And yeah, we are going to do something a little bit experimental today because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of having a, experimental moment. I had a long day. I really did. It was just a lot of work. I just worked a lot today. And then we had, on Sunday this week, we had a buy donation garage sale to benefit my nonprofit organization, Give It, Get It, Inc. And that was really fun, but Sunday is one of my days off typically. Usually I take Sunday, Monday off. And so Sunday, instead of it being off, I was doing a bunch of work. So as fun as the sale was, and as good as it was, and as good of a time as it was also a lot, and I'm still recovering. And then today was a long day too, and it's going to be a long week this week as well, which is fine. I'm not like too bummed about it, not complaining about it. Honestly, it just is what it is. And last week, I told a bunch of my friends to come and get in the chat, and so some of them did show up, and so it was fun to have people in the chat, but it also low-key made it a little bit of extra work for me. So I kind of figured this week I would keep it low-key. I'm trying to transition from using we to using I more, because I tend to say we in all the things that I do. Also, this is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer shirt that my boyfriend got me for my birthday, and I love it. Freshly took a shower, and we're on the floor. Also, I can't believe I haven't said anything yet about the fact that we're on the floor. I also did not want to stand for another hour today because it's been 5 hours of manual labor on my feet today for my job, and I'm tired. Your girl's tired. So we're going to do this on the ground. And what we're going to do, again, it's kind of an experimental thing, and I might have to turn the light on for the second part of it, but I'm going to go through braiding, just like the basics of braiding. So that's going to be the kind of like skill that we're doing. If you've watched any of my other videos, my attempt for each video is to work on a skill, and then also, obviously just socialize a little bit too. Eventually, I would love to get to the point where we do a skill first, and then we like hang out and watch a show together, maybe, or something, work on my work in progress sort of things. But that will have to be for a time once I get some more people to show up for the live and to be in the chat and to be doing some of that work for me, not having to talk for 2 hours straight and being able to kind of like build that community. So not quite at that point. So I will just be going live for probably like 45 minutes to an hour. And like I said, I'm going to do braiding, and then I'm going to attempt to take the braid. So I'm using the t-shirt yarn that I made in the last 2 videos. Let me see my light also. Whoa. Okay, that's as low as it goes. That's as low as it goes. Ooh. It doesn't even want to go that low. Yeah, okay. Because it's kind of blinding me. But yeah, so this is the t-shirt yarn. Got a couple different colors that I made in the last 2 weeks of Quiet Craft Club. So I'm going to cut some length of this, and then I'm going to use my handy dandy clipboard here, and I'm going to show you guys how to braid. And I'm going to make a big long braided piece. And then I'm going to attempt to take a needle and thread, which I have right here, and turn that length of the braided cord or the braided t-shirt yarn into like a coaster, like a circle. So start at one end and kind of like put it around itself. I have no idea if it's going to work. I have no idea if it's going to be anything like what I think it's going to be. This is how they make braided rugs, but I didn't want to even watch a tutorial. I didn't even watch a tutorial on how to do it. I just thought maybe I could do that. And if that goes terribly, then I have this project to work on. Oh, and I just want to show you guys, this is a big, like, I hope that it will be a basket eventually. It looks pretty cool in this like funky lighting that I have going on. But yeah, so this is, I made also some black t-shirt yarn the last couple weeks. And then this is all of the bottoms of the t-shirts that I cut off, and I am putting that on like the inside. I have no idea how this basket's gonna turn out either. Also, I'm gonna get up and turn this light on and see what happens. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. It's kind of spooky before. You can see my like area. This is where I keep like my things that I'm working on currently. This is the couch that I like to sit on a lot, but I don't love the texture of the couch, so I like to have this blanket that's nice and soft on there. But okay, yeah, so to get back to what we're doing today, we're gonna try it. And if that experimental thing doesn't work, at least I'll show you guys how to do the braid. And then if the sewing part doesn't work, then so be it. I'll move on and I'll crochet a little bit and just talk to you guys about what's going on in my life. So yeah, okay, so the first thing, we're gonna do a 3-strand braid. So we need to pick 3 colors. I kind of think these 3 are good ones. Because then I have this purple, which kind of doesn't go with anything. So yeah, that one needs to not. And then I have this blue, which is a really lovely like teal green blue that I also feel like would go with these. But like these 4 are honestly really good together. But if anything, I kind of like this so much, I kind of want to save it for something special. So I'm going to use these 3. And we're going to cut a length of just the same amount. I don't know how much to do. Did long boy. Okay. Oh. Okay. Sorry, my thread. I have one of these things chilling right here. And it just knocked over, and it's like one of my worst fears that there's just going to be like a needle in the floor. Sorry if I just made that one of your fears now too. But okay, so I did a long piece, and now I'm going to do this other color to the same amount. Somehow I will end up with 3 strings of 3 different lengths. Don't ask me how, but that is what tends to happen to me, because sometimes I'm not that careful. Okay. Yeah, already see. Those 2 are different. Cut that one. Okay, and then put these to the side. I have the clipboard because I do think that it is easier to braid if you have something to pull against. So I like to use a clipboard to make, anytime I'm really doing like knotting things, I like to use a clipboard, and just once I've knotted the 3 things together, you can kind of put the knot under this little thing, and it keeps it pretty secure. And then you can like pull against it. You know, if you're like braiding your hair, you can obviously pull against your head. Okay, so here's the question. Here's one question. Do we want to tie these together? Yeah, we're going to tie them together. And if I end up having to untie them to make, I don't know if you guys know what I'm saying. Like, I can't tell if it's translating at all from my brain out of my mouth, that what I want to do is make like a little circle spiral, like little coaster. Okay, so you could put this anywhere. I'm going to put it right before the knot so that we don't have very much space. So we have these 3 strands. So now we're going to get into the basics of braiding. And maybe this is something that is too rudimentary for most of the people watching this. I don't know. I'm not sure. To me, I learned how to braid when I was really, really young. I've known how to braid for almost my entire life. I personally think it's very easy, but it kind of depends on the circumstance. This is a circumstance in which braiding will be very easy for me, but I'm going to go through it as if you're somebody who's never braided before in your life, because I also think it's a good skill, and it's like one of those kind of basic in terms of doing things with your hands, doing like different knot tying, macrame, that sort of thing. Like braiding is kind of just a given. Also, then of course there's like braiding hair and doing that. And often when you're braiding hair, you're doing like a French braid or a Dutch braid, or you're doing cornrows, or you're doing some sort of additive style where you have your 3 strands and then you're adding as you go. But we're just gonna do just like literally just a straight up braid. So we're gonna do 3-strand braid also. I think I know how to 4-strand. I can do any of the strands of braiding. I just have to re-look up how to do it, and then it's just like the muscle memory of it. But 3-strand braiding is ingrained up in here. Let me take one more drink. So also the fact that we have 3 different colors will be helpful, though this one's a little bit, I think it'll be enough. This one's really thin for some reason. This is one of the things that's tough about t-shirt yarn is like you get this sort of inconsistent, no matter how careful you are about cutting it to an inch or whatever, you get kind of an inconsistent thickness. And it's one of the things that's tough about t-shirt yarn. But what I do like about t-shirt yarn is that, like, in theory, these t-shirts cost me $0 because I got them from my nonprofit. In theory, they also would cost, like, making t-shirt yarn would cost you $0 of spending money. You obviously have to spend like time doing it, your own time, which is worth something. But this is something where, like, you want to learn a new skill, you want to learn how to do some new knots techniques, some new macrame techniques, you want to learn how to braid, you want to learn how to, you know, do any type of macrame or square knots, spiral knots, or even like fishing knots and whatever. This is something where you could make this and then practice over and over and over again. Oh, my air conditioning just came on. Hope that's not going to be too much of an issue. We'll see. I guess this will be an experiment. Because also, I don't want to get up again. I already didn't want to get up to turn the light on. Okay. So we have our 3 strands. We have our 1 in the middle for now. It's going to be in the middle for now. We have our 2 on each side. So we got to pick a side to start on. I think we should start with this one. And essentially what we're doing each time is that we're alternating which outside string we put and replace in the middle, and then the middle string becomes that outside string. So I'm going to do this in the most rudimentary way possible. See, we just kind of switched those. So the dark blue went on top of the light blue. And whichever way on top or underneath that you choose to start the braid, you can do either way. You just have to be consistent with it. So I'm going over the top of these, but you can go underneath as well. It just kind of depends on what's easiest for you. Okay, so let's just start over. We started with the light blue in the middle and the dark blue on the outside, and we're going to go over the strands. So we're going to replace the replace the light blue with the dark blue in the middle and move the light blue out. We're going to do the same. We're going to go to the opposite side that we just did, that we started with, and go to the green and put that in the middle and move the dark blue to the outside. We're going to take the light blue and switch that with the green, putting it over. So now we have essentially the first little bit of our braid, because we're now back to the light blue in the middle, but as we can see, the dark blue and the green have switched sides. So to make that a little bit faster, we're going to see how I'm kind of holding these all in different hands. Dark blue is going to go to the middle. So right now, then we have those. Green's going to switch with the dark blue. Now green's in the middle. Light blue over the green. So then once you get a little bit faster at it, you can kind of just do it, trade these back and forth. And as we can see down here, it starts to get tangled. Never fear, you just have to pull it out. And it does, it kind of like braids itself down at the bottom. So obviously when you're doing this, you're not going to do it how I'm doing it, where I'm like kind of holding it awkwardly and braiding. You're going to have it in front of you, but it's the same idea. This is a lot less thick as like a cord than I thought it would be, which I don't think will matter for the thing that I want to do with it, but it's just an interesting thing. So, okay. So now we have gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We have a braid. Your braid, if this is the first time that you're doing a braid, it's probably a lot looser than that, and that just comes with practice. Because depending on how tight you pull it each time you cross one over with the other one, that's going to mean how tight your braid is. I actually try to do this as a pretty loose braid because I want to be able to sew into it. But also we're getting kind of like far along on our clipboard and it's getting a little bit hard to maneuver. So what I'm going to do is, this is really hard to do with one hand. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to move that up. So now our braid sticks up over there. And you might think like, okay, so how do I know where to start? If I like kind of let go of this to move it up, like I have these three, which one do I start with? Right here. So I know that I'm going to start with this green one because I've done this many times before. But also, if we want to just figure out which one was in the middle last, so because we want to do the opposite, we could just let this fall and know, okay, that one was in the middle. So when we switch over this way, so then if it's like that, now we know green is next. Like I said, I've been braiding for a long time. So for me, braiding this whole thing would really just take a few seconds probably. This is a fun way to make little, like, you can make little friendship bracelets with these, little like wish bracelets with these. Be a fun craft to do with kiddos. Again, the thing that's nice about t-shirt yarn is that you can potentially spend $0 to make the t-shirt yarn, which then you can use for a lot of different crafts and also practicing a lot of different crafts. If you're like, okay, well, I maybe want to get into macrame, but I don't want to spend a bunch of money on all the different kinds of macrame material that you can make it out of and whatever until I know whether or not I'm going to like it. And also the thing about art in general is that it's a lot of practicing. And one of my frustrations with that more than anything is that practicing, you often have to spend just as much money to practice as you do to do the craft to like a, high degree that you could potentially also then like make income from. So if you're trying to, learn things with the idea of like, maybe I'll learn this new skill and it'll be like valuable to me in some way, sometimes it can be frustrating to spend a bunch of money on that. And that's not to say that you have to by any means sell your art that you do, or that has to be an aim of the art that you do. But sometimes it is hard to justify spending money on a new thing if, especially if you're somebody who has a lot of crafty things already and you've already spent money on all these other things and you haven't done any of those other things to the extent that you thought you were going to. And like, this is just a fun way to try stuff out and to reduce, reuse, recycle, which I think is always cool. And even if the pieces of your t-shirt that you don't use for the t-shirt yarn end up in the garbage, like that's less material in the garbage, I'm all about small steps. I'm all about in the reduce, reuse, recycle journey, like doing what you can. And I don't necessarily think, I guess this is me getting into like maybe somewhat of a controversial subject, but like I don't necessarily think that the impetus behind reduce, reuse, recycle for individuals should be the idea that that's how we combat climate change. Because I think that even if every single individual on the planet was recycling at 100%, reducing as much as they could, reducing, reusing, and recycling to their highest possible percentage that they could, we would still be polluting the earth horribly, because most of the pollution on the earth comes from companies and like corporations and mining and extracting and those sort of things. uh, you know, factories. Like, so there's not a lot on the individual that can make that sort of like huge change, but I do think that reduce, reuse, recycle as a lifestyle is really valuable for a lot of reasons otherwise too. I think that a nice it's a nice way to treat the earth first and foremost. Like, it is a nice way to treat the earth, even if it can't combat the 99% of the pollutants that are put in the air by practices and production and companies and corporations that we like can't. The only way to enact change on would be to like enact big large scale change. I do think it is a better way to exist with your own individual relationship with the earth, because it just forces you to think a little bit more about what you're doing with certain things and like what you're giving versus what you're receiving from the earth and whatever. So I think whatever. So I think that is a good thing to do, to try to reduce, reuse, recycle, just for the fact of like it's a nice thing to do for your individual relationship with the earth. But I also think it can make for really fun stuff too. Like, I think that reducing, reusing, and recycling can also lead to like positive lifestyle changes and positive ways of thinking and positive ways of being and existing that you might not think about before you start that journey. Like, I didn't think about the spiritual ways that reduce, reuse, recycle was going to make me feel better. I did not think about like the ways that reducing, as in trying to reduce my consumption overall, was going to affect every part of my life positively, mostly. Um, like, how much nicer it is to live even in like a house, even in a room, existing in a room where everything in that room is something that you've decided you want to be there versus just like crap that you're piling up around you. Uh, so, there's just those kind of things. And also finding your own like value and worth outside of just the things that you're consuming, I think personally is one of the best things about sort of joining into that lifestyle. Okay, so I kind of not here at the bottom, which I'm not going to pull super tight because I think probably I will end up taking it out and sewing it together. But okay, so we have our big long cord. The lighting in the camera are not the best. But yeah, okay, so we have our little start point. So this is what I mean, like what I was trying to say of like what I wanted to get done is like a rug, or not a rug, a little coaster where you kind of just like where I go around in circles and like sew this to itself to make this like spiral little like coastery thing. My first question is whether to leave the knot in there. You really can't see it that well. But to leave the knot in there and not leave the knot in there. I think I might need to leave it in there as like kind of an anchor. Okay, let's get our needle ready. I don't have a, whatever those are called, thimble. So hopefully I don't stab myself too many times. How about we make it's always the joke that when I talk about how dull my rotary blade is, we take a drink, but how about every time I stab myself, we take a drink? Actually, I want to take another drink anyhow. Okay. There's a fly buzzing around. Can you hear it? It's like so loud to me. Like, when a fly is just like it's like, how you get so loud, bro? Oh my gosh, it is my I cannot figure out. I don't know if you can see that like I have two I'm trying to tie a double knot and I just like can never get it to like line up. I'm not very good at sewing. This is a little hand sewing thing. I'm not even going to pretend to try to give a tutorial about this because I do not know how to sew very well at all. That one also did not line up with the other one. We do one more and see where we're at. Okay, that one at least lined up with one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And again, this could be a total complete fail. I'm not sure. I just had this idea. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I had this idea. I really should have moved on today to square knots or like some sort of knot, macrame knot in my like flow of what the things that I want to teach people, like the things that I want to eventually be able to teach in these live classes. It needs to like the knowledge needs to build on itself. But I also told myself that I wasn't going to treat any of the quiet craft clubs as the first place that I'm teaching any of these skills because I think like the point of this is to more be like a hangout situation. This week is a little bit different because I just did not have the social battery to text a bunch of people and I didn't even post about it, like none of that sort of stuff. But I do want that eventually to be the vibe of this is like more kind of a place to come and just like work on stuff and not necessarily be explaining the whole time, more like be like, responding to the live chat and kind of like working on things. So I haven't had a chance to make another video of just like any of the skills of like the knot tying and whatever. But I figured braiding would be a good one because I probably won't make a skill of that video. Like I won't make a video of that skill because it's just a little bit basic for what I feel the desire to put that much work into. So my next video will hopefully be about different kinds of knots, some different macrame knots. My hope is to do a square and spiral knot probably together. And then I will do really my goal, like the thing that I want to get to be able to teach in this like little kind of class is doing a whole planter, like a plant hanger, because I made one of those in macrame with t-shirt yarn, and it is the cutest freaking thing. I just had a little spit bubble that actually even like left my mouth as a bubble. LOL. Okay, here's the problem with not having a thumbtack is that I can't like push it through. Man, sewing is tough on your hands. I'm already feeling it. But this is kind of working. See, I'm like sewing it to itself. And I think once I get past the point when it's like the knot, it'll be a lot easier. It's just that like the knot is really thick, if that makes sense. Okay, I gotta get these little ends wrapped up in some way. I just poked myself, but I didn't stab myself. I poked myself in the cuticle. It didn't really hurt, so we're not counting it. You don't have to take a drink of any kind of beverage. I would never be like, you must drink alcohol. But I think it is fun to just have like do a drinking game. Okay, of course. I'm sorry. I got this all mixed up in here. I don't know if this will be interesting at all. This will probably be maybe it's a boring video to watch. I'm not sure. It really depends on if you think I'm funny or not. Think I'm worth listening to or not. Or if you're trying to learn something. I really do want this to be a YouTube channel of learning, as dorky as that sounds. Okay. It's not going to look pretty on the back, but I think it might be working. Don't want to speak too soon. Ow. We're still like in the knot. See, the spiral is starting. Even this early, even though sometimes you just like do things with crafting where you're just like, how of all the things that could have happened there is that what happened? And I can't even explain what happened because it's too confusing. Okay. things are happening. Things are happening. This needle is also really tiny. Tiny little needle. Okay. I gotta make sure I'm like getting in the right things. Oh, it started getting so much easier now that I'm like off the knot. But yeah, so this is week 3 of Quiet Craft Club, which, I hope to someday be at like, have hundreds of weeks under my belt. So it is funny. It's always funny getting something new started. I have a couple of things. Oh, shoot. I meant to do a more formal intro to this one since I haven't really done that the last couple of times because people have been here and I just get distracted. And again, I got distracted because I wanted to tell you guys, I wanted to make sure that you knew about the other places that you can like find the things that I do. So I guess I'll just talk about them now. I do a couple of different things. So biggest, first and foremost that I must talk about is my nonprofit organization, Give It Get It Inc. And this Quiet Craft Club is part of Give It Get It Inc. in that it's part of our Trash to Treasure initiative, which is a thing that I do where I try to take things that would typically be either seen as trash by people or literally would have ended up in a landfill if I did not decide to hold on to them. And that is a part of our Trash to Treasure initiative. And these sort of things, these sort of classes or these sort of learning moments, I really also want to do in person. And so I am kind of using also Quiet Craft Club as a bit of a way to sort of practice doing these skills in a more like observed way, if that makes sense. Like trying to figure out like what parts are easy to do in front of people, what parts are not easy to do in front of people, because one of the things about trying to teach people something is like knowing where people are going to go, like are going to have their toughest moments. It's smart to kind of have those on the radar beforehand. Okay, look, this is like totally working. See, I'm like sewing it together. Don't look at the back because the back is ugly, but I don't even know if you can see a difference. It's not too bad once I cut off these stragglers. But yeah, I think it's like kind of working actually. I'm already running out of string. I'm gonna have to re-up on my string pretty quick here, but yeah, okay, so sorry to get back to, so this is part of Give It Get It to some degree, but also I like to do things. So, okay, so for Give It Get It, if you ever want to support us for free, you can find us on any of the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, I guess not any of them, but Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a account on all of those things under the name Give It Get It Inc. Give It Get It Inc. Sometimes that's a confusing thing. Those words in that order. But yeah, so you could find us. Ow, I just stabbed myself. I'm gonna take a drink. This literally looks like, I don't even know what it looks like, but it looks like something nasty. But it's whiskey and blue raspberry. It's delicious. I don't know. My boyfriend made it for me. And it's yummy. It tastes good. It just doesn't look appealing. But yeah, so you can find us for free on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We also have a website, though the website is not super up to date. And I sometimes am embarrassed to even tell people that we have a website because it's like pretty meh. I'm not very good. I'm actually not very good with technology, which is funny because I don't do a ton of technology, but I do a lot of social media because you got to do social media these days to get anywhere in the business world. And while I do run a nonprofit, it is technically still a business. And unfortunately, I have to think about it as a business because that's how you keep the doors open and the lights on. Because another one of the things that we do is we have a buy donation thrift shop that we co-run and support by paying the bills for the thrift shop. And that thrift shop is called Claire's Community Closet. And we are in the Hillcrest Shopping Center, 2 doors down from Muncher's Bakery. If you know, you know. If you're in Lawrence, Kansas, you probably know what Muncher's Bakery is. If you're not, then come visit us sometime and see what it's all about. I'm gonna cut these pieces off so that I can have some peace. Oh my gosh, that's gonna make it so much easier. See the back there, and then the front, but it looks kind of cute. I'm like actually really into it. I think this is a great idea. I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, I run a business. I'm a business goyle. But yeah, so we have a thrift shop. We do a lot of things for free. That's kind of the point of us, including this. This is for free. But if you want to support us monetarily, you can visit patreon.com/MeganHD. And that will get you to a Patreon featuring moi. And I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff with Give It, Get It. I do some like vlog style things. Most recently, I have been filming. Well, okay, so my most recent video was. Oh, I was like, what was my most recent video? I did a video called Not Like Other Nonprofits, where I talk about what makes Give It, Get It different than other nonprofits. And that was fun to do. Also a little bit stressful because it's something that I care a lot about. And I feel like sometimes when I care the most about something, it's the hardest to communicate with other people, like in a way that feels significant. So there was that, but it was good. It was a good video. I feel like it was very informative to what we're about and what I'm about and all that. And then I also have been filming, and I'll have this month up a video about the buy donation garage sale that we did. So that'll be fun to have that up. Just show you sort of the work that goes in behind the scenes to something like that. And then, yeah, I'm going to do an interview with Claire sometime soon, who's my business partner and the person that runs Claire's Community Closet, which is the thrift shop that I was just talking about that we co-run and support. And yeah, the Patreon is really cool because all the money from there goes to paying Give It, Get It's rent. So Give It, Get It's rent is $900 a month, and I'm trying to get it to the point where the Patreon pays those bills, that $900 a month, by the end of the year. So it's currently the very beginning of October. And then, yeah, maybe. We'll see. We're at about $360 right now, though that can always fluctuate because people sometimes, their situation changes, their membership, whatever, their card gets declined for whatever reason, their card expires, their situation changes, whatever. So I say we're at $350 right now. That doesn't always stay the same. But yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about continuing to make videos on there. If you ever want any sort of video specifically about any sort of specific information, you can always ask me on the Patreon to talk about something specific, do something specific. But yeah, and then I do the Quiet Craft Club, and I teach classes, the Trash to Treasure classes. I've only taught one live class so far, and that was at the library. It was really fun. It was for kiddos. We made little keychains. It was a good time. It was a good time. And I'm kind of hoping that this, over the holiday season and whatnot, maybe I can teach some more classes, but it's also a hard thing for me to advertise sometimes. There's so much else going on. And also, so that was one of the reasons why I also started the Quiet Craft Club, is because for me personally, I, struggle to have a desire to leave my house, except for when I'm working or when I have to. So, I wanted to maybe make a place for crafters that could be a little bit more like that, where, you don't have to leave your house and you don't even really have to talk if you don't want to. And you can type and you can become, part of the chat and I can respond to you and that sort of stuff if you want, but also you can just kind of chill. And then I've thought maybe, if it ever becomes popular enough or people have a desire to meet up and do like real life craft clubs, then that would also be a fun thing to do at some point. But right now, I am perfectly content on my floor, experimenting with things that are actually going surprisingly well. I'll give you an update once I pull this through here. Okay, look. See what I mean? It's looking pretty good. Okay, so I do feel as though, like, if I was going to do this another time, I would not leave the knot in the t-shirt yarn. I would maybe like sew it together and like start it that way because it does like it feels different than the rest of it, and it kind of, once this becomes a coaster and like sits flat, it might be like kind of a bad texture. But yeah, I'm feeling like, so we'll just continue to go. I'll probably have to re-up my yarn. Or not my yarn, my thread at some point. I don't know how long this looks like. It won't be quite long enough to actually be like a real size coaster. But it's a good start. It's a good practice. And like I said before, this is one of the things that's tough about art and like getting into art sometimes is like it's so much about practice and trial and error. And sometimes if you're either the type of person who, one, it's hard to like fail over and over again or like not do everything perfectly the first time, or if you're a person who just doesn't have that much time and you like want the satisfaction of actually creating like an end results, art can be tough sometimes, like crafting can be tough sometimes because, it's so much practice. There's so much practice that goes into it to be able to actually create things that like you would want to display around your house or that sort of thing. You would want to give to somebody else as a gift or, whatever your reason for getting into a craft is. I like crafting because it's just something to kind of like keep my hands busy. And I like a lot of things for that, like crafting wise for that reason. But it does become tough for me personally once I get to the point where I'm like actually decently good at something, because then I want to create things to give to other people, like give as gifts, make for Christmas, make for people for their birthdays, whatever. And that becomes a little bit of a tougher, like once you get to that point, then you have to be really careful about the things that you do. And it's not just practice anymore. It's something that like could, could represent you outside of just your own house. And that always becomes a little bit tougher once you get to that point, because you actually have to care about each step and like things looking good. And sometimes it's tough to make things that are handmade look good. Not always. And especially not if you have, not if you've practiced a lot, not if you've worked on your skills and all that. But I haven't really created a ton of things that I've made things and given them to people, mostly like scarves and hats and stuff. But I haven't done a lot of like super, super creative things that I felt confident enough to give to other people. So that's even me when I've been doing fiber arts for really like my whole life, but pretty intensely for about 5 years. I've been crocheting pretty regularly. I've gotten into t-shirt yarn. I like to watercolor as well, but I'm not super good at watercoloring. That's something that I do not a ton. I like to write like letter, like kind of like hand letter stuff in a cool way. That's a craft. That's an art thing. I don't really know the difference between a craft and an art. I feel like all crafting falls under the category of art, but not all art is crafting, if that makes sense. But maybe I'm not thinking about that right. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me drop it in the comments. I think there's the ability to have comments even after the fact on this video. I'm not sure. Maybe it's only the live comments that count. But yeah, this is like kind of cool. I'm kind of into this. I can't imagine making an entire rug by hand like this, but Maybe some little coasters. I mean, this guy is even taking me. Oh, it's already. Oh my gosh, we're already at almost 45 minutes. Wowza! Time flies. That is another thing about crafting that's fun. Is like, I mean, it's fun and depressing that like time flies. So you just like you work on something, and then you look at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh, I was so into that I didn't even realize. Wow, that's crazy. It has already been. It is 7:45 right now. I told myself I was gonna. I was like, I thought that it was gonna be hard to get to 45 minutes today without any comments to respond to, but surprise, surprise, I could talk to myself for 45 minutes pretty easily. It is fun to have people in the chat for sure. It goes by fast in a different sort of way, but I get less done. That's like the kind of the trade-off of it. Like the first week I had like one person responding to some things, and that was fun. And I got 4 things of yarn of t-shirt yarn, 4 balls of t-shirt yarn done. And then the one last week I had like 3 friends in the chat, and I got 3 balls of yarn done. So, it is kind of like tend to get more done when there's less distractions. The lighting is not great for this, but it's looking really cool, guys. And actually, the back is like not too bad. Oh, yeah, here, if I get it really close, you actually can see it pretty good. I'm into it. I like it. I'm getting like to the end of the string, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I guess I'll just do it here. They say you go over the same spot 3 times in sewing, and it's pretty much in there. So I'm just gonna do that, and then I'll tie off, and then I'll get a new thread to finish this off. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to finish this in an hour. So I only really have like 10 more minutes. My boyfriend made dinner, so we're gonna have that after this. He made ribs in the oven, but like boneless ribs. We do this somewhat often. They're like boneless pork ribs, and he cooks them all day. And then we have sandwich, and then we have a little sandwich. They're so good. Okay, tie that off. Cut it. Okay, now you guys are gonna have to watch me rethread a freaking needle. Little teeny tiny needle. I actually thought at first that this thread might be too thick to even thread through this needle, but it wasn't. Oh, I got it pretty quick. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Try to make this one extra long so that it'll definitely finish me off here. This has been fun though. I'm glad if you're watching this, thank you so much. Glad I got to talk a little bit more about all the other things that I do. You can also find my personal TikTok at the username Megan Talks, same as this account. Oh, and then also, I feel like I should tell people about this, even though sometimes it feels embarrassing. I also have a Harry Potter TikTok or a Harry Potter podcast. A Harry Potter podcast is called If I Wrote That, and it is on Spotify. And I'm almost through. Well, I'm not even almost through. I am a little over halfway through the first book right now. So still early days of the podcast. And it's fun. It's called If I Wrote That because I go through, I do essentially a critical examination of the chapters and what happens during them. And so each of my chapter episodes has a segment called plot points. And so I go through pretty much like page by page of the plot of the chapter. And I talk about the things that I like that work for the chapter and don't work for the chapter. And then I have peaks and pits, and I talk about what my favorite things are about that chapter and what my least favorite things are about that chapter. And it's fun. And then in between, so I do one chapter episode a month, and then typically I'll do one other episode a month as well. And that's either like a deep dive episode where I dive into one character and talk about my thoughts and feelings on that one character, things that I thought that like things I think about with that character when I read them, different, just the way that she writes different characters, that sort of thing. I also then do rewriting chapters, and so that's kind of where the like if I wrote that comes in, where I talk about the things that I would change about certain chapters, like add or subtract or just rework or whatever. So yeah, it's a good time over there. It's just me, just little old me talking about Harry Potter, sometimes for hours. There's literally, I would say our average episode length is an hour and a half, but I do have some 2 hour long episodes for sure. Yeah, man, this worked really well. I'm really excited about this. This is really cool. This is like one of those things that just incorporates like a lot of the things that I like to do. I definitely need to get a thimble, but yeah, it incorporates a lot of things that I like to do. I do like to sew, and I would love to learn how to I want to learn how to sew on a sewing machine so that I can alter and, like, make my own clothing, which is, like, the next step for me in my life. I already get all my clothes for free from my thrift shop, and so next I need to start altering things and making things to fit my exact specifications, and I think that would be really fun to do. And I also, yeah, continue to work. I also this is like a fun one because it's also a product like that at the end of it is like a good like I could make obviously little coasters out of this. I could make placemats if I wanted to go that big. I could in theory make rugs entirely too, but that would be like something I would need a sewing machine for and probably a very specific type of sewing machine. But it's cool to make the first steps. Maybe I could make earrings, like, if I did them really small, like, I could do these little spirals, but, like, small and make little earrings. I think that would be good. So, yeah, I love just, like, combining skills, learning what looks good, what works together and doesn't work, and this, like, I had no idea, like, this could have not worked at all and been a complete fail, and I would have, still been like, "Okay, it's nice to learn." It's nice to learn something for sure. But yeah, no, it's like and I do feel like also in terms of sewing, so I will show you a little bit about what I'm doing here because I'm not a complete 100% beginner. So essentially I'm just like because you can't see on the front where I'm going through it all. So I'm kind of just like taking the back of this and like kind of getting like a shallow amount and then shallowly putting it into the back as well. But I'm doing it close enough together that hopefully it'll hold. And obviously, this doesn't have to be that structurally sound because it's just, I mean, this is really just even a practice. But then if this is just a coaster, like it doesn't, probably what I would do is put something on the back of this, like either maybe another piece of t shirt or a piece of cork if I had it, something like that to make it, and like probably hot glue it to the back of this and then that way it's not like floppy, and then also the back that's like pretty ugly doesn't show. It might be cool to do another piece of t-shirt just to make it really like fully and also like, if I had kept any of these t-shirts, well, I probably still have them. Any of these t-shirts, the parts of the t-shirt that you can't make into t-shirt yarn, we could use one of those colors and it could be extra cohesive and also you would have to throw away less of the shirt, which is cool. Which is a plus. Maybe I will do that, and then I could just like, yeah, either glue it to the back or sew it to the back if I wanted to take the time to sew it as well. But I probably wouldn't. I would probably just glue it. I would probably glue it and see what happened, and then if it was weird or like didn't work or like wore out after a while, if I had the coaster for a while, then maybe I would sew it. Ooh, I just really stabbed myself with that one. I don't think a thimble would have helped because it was just a mistake. Ouch. That's the thing about sewing. That's the thing about crafting in general is that it really does. I've said this in each of my live streams, but like it is really hard on your body in a lot of ways. And this one is obviously like this is just a really sharp thing that you have to be careful about not pricking yourself. Um, but also just like sitting here doing this repetitive motion over and over again, holding these things tightly, like it all does. You can feel it. That really hurt my finger. It makes me just want to be done. Just want to be done. I'm really close though. Look at this. Just have a tiny little tail left. And I think we'll hit just over an hour, which is cool with me. I mean, it's nice. Honestly, longer content is better in my personal opinion. But I don't want to go too long. That's the struggle that I have with my podcast sometimes is like I really feel like anything over an hour and a half is just too much for one episode, for one, point of somebody listening to it. But sometimes I just got a lot to talk about. And I really do try to keep them less than 2 hours, but sometimes I can't help it. There's just too much to talk about. This is the thing that I need the thimble for is like pushing it through, not necessarily the not getting stabbed, but being able to push it through with not just like my soft flesh. And this is why I said also that I'll probably get rid of this. I'll probably just sew it down each of the side. Well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might have to unravel the. Definitely gonna have to untie the knot, but I was just thinking maybe I could just like cut the knot off. I think I'm gonna have to untie it. I don't think just cutting it off will work like how I think it will. And yeah, see, oh, I am bleeding. I got blood on there. Ouch, dude. I was wondering if I was going to bleed because I felt like it went pretty deep, but I didn't see any blood, but I guess it just took a second. I also think that you could potentially not even sew this and just glue it together with hot glue. But hot glue is one of those things where I always think it's going to be easier. I always think it's going to be easier than it is to do. And then it's low key kind of hard. I need thimbles for like each of my fingers, I swear. Because I just stabbed my thumb. And it hurt also. I'm not happy about it. And I'm going to take another drink. It's also because I'm kind of trying to go fast because we're at the end of our time. Look how good this looks, though, guys. Like, kind of looks like an optical illusion on here, but just a few little bits left. And I definitely got like neater as it went on. I definitely got enough thread for the second one to finish it off, which is good because there's nothing more annoying than getting to like the very end of your project and having to like re-add something. See, this is where we get the name Quiet Craft Club. That's why also eventually I would love for people to be in the chat so that I could just occasionally like focus on things on the actual crafting. and y'all could entertain yourselves. This is so cool. You can kind of see it from the front. Ah, itch, itch, itch. Okay, I guess I should decide here. Oh my gosh, this fly. It's like, you don't have anywhere else to be in this whole house. You got to be within a foot of me. It's so annoying. Go mess with the dog. Why? Okay, I thought I tied this loose, but I guess I didn't. Not loose enough to untie that easily. Okay, I'm just gonna like kind of let it chill, and then when I get down, God, itchy. And then when I get to it, I'll just see. I'll see how to finish it off. I feel like starting and finishing projects is one of actually also the hardest things about crafting. It's like never talked about enough. Is like any fiber art that you do, like the middle part of it is so much easier than the starting and the finishing. And the starting and the finishing is where you have to be really careful and you have to like be really precise because it can totally like ruin a piece. Like I don't know. And starting is always feels a little bit easier, but like if you start wrong and then the end, like you still have that starting point that was bad. And then like ending, it's like, oh my gosh, you're so done with the project and you just want to be done, you just want to be at the end of it. But if you like skimp on it and you do a bad job, you could ruin your piece that you just spent a ton of time on. Can you tell that I'm not a good finisher? I'm a better starter than I am a finisher. Like I tend to start way more projects than I finish. And sometimes I have projects that I literally like all that I have to do is like the last little bit of them. And I can't get myself to do it because I want it to be perfect. And like if I have something that's perfectly done, I hate the fact that I could just mess it all up by messing up the end. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna try to just kind of sew these all to each other and then also down to this. Yeah, okay. Okay, okay. Just go over this same area a few times. And then we'll tie a knot and we'll see how it ends up. Again, I like the finishing parts of things. It's one of the hardest things. I feel like really only true experts have the skills to finish projects. Even with like crocheting that I've been doing for a while, like the finishing is the worst part. It's like you got to make sure it doesn't unravel. You got to make sure your knots are tight enough. You got to make sure everything's good. It's gonna look good. Okay, I'm gonna cut this off and then I'm gonna sew any more that I need to. If it looks bad. I think I just sewed through some of my cuts or cut through some of my sews. Yeah, see that looks kind of bad at the end there. But what I'm gonna do, since I still have this, I'm gonna kind of go through and grab this. Not grab it, but like squeeze it with thread. Another thing I love about t-shirt yarn is that the things that you create with it, I did cut my yarn on it. You can also put most of them in the washer as long as they are done well enough that it's not going to mess anything up. You can usually wash them, which I think is cool. Like I made my dog a dog bed out of t-shirt yarn. And I will say we washed it a couple of times and now it is unraveling because it was, again, an experimental thing that I was doing. But if I had done it better, I mean, it survived like 2 or 3 washes and then it just got to the point where it was too much. Okay, I'm at the point of, I think, being able to do some knots to finish this off. It just keeps getting stuck on itself, which is annoying. Okay. I always find myself like leaning to one side or the other. Yeah, this ending does not look great. I'm also always a fan of like doing the best you can with the knots and then just like putting a little dot of clear nail polish or something like that on the top of them. Sorry, I got losing all the hair. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut this, call it good, see what happens, because this is all really just one big experiment. I'm going to make sure I got my needle back in my little tomato here. And look, you guys, that end looks pretty terrible, and especially from this side. It's like frayed, my scissors are really dull, but you know what? We did it. We did a cool little thing out of braided t-shirt yarn that cost me $0, which I think is cool and could potentially be something. I mean, that took me an hour. I mean, it took me an hour, but also an hour where I was talking and distracted. I think it's cool. I feel like I'm being funny with my little like influencer 2016 influencer hand. I like it. It's tiny. I think it could actually probably fit a drink. Let's see. Oh, it's so bumpy. See, that's the problem is that the middle, like where I have that knot, it's just like it's a hard knot versus this is like soft. And so that very middle, like yeah, that's definitely something that I would change the next time. And honestly, this is probably not even really a usable thing. Yeah, no, it's not. 'Cause it acts like it's gonna spill this over. Well, we did what we needed to do, which was experiment with that, learn how to braid. We did that at the beginning of this time, of our time together. And we spent an hour hanging out, crafting, doing things. I got something done that I never would have got done if I didn't have this motivating me to do it. So, catch you on the next one. I will continue to go live every Tuesday as often as possible. Give it, get it is probably going to be where I'll tell you. The Give it, get it Facebook is probably going to be where I'll tell you if I'm not going to be live. So definitely go and check that out and like, subscribe, those sort of things. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.